Welcome to When Life Gets Strange, tips for loving your perfectly imperfect military and everyday life. Let me introduce you to my wife and your host, Maria Strange. We have been married for over 20 years, over 17 years in the Army, and she is the mother to our 6 children, and we are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. As a certified life coach, Maria's goal is to help you thrive and love your perfectly imperfect military and everyday life. Are you ready?
Hello, ladies, and welcome back to When Life Gets Strange, episode 29. Today, we're going to talk about asking for what you want. And I'm so excited to share that topic with you. But first off, if you're enjoying this podcast, would you please subscribe and share it with a friend? I really want to get this out to as many military spouses as possible, because I like to think that I'm helping you guys. I hear that I'm helping you. And so if it's helped you, pass it along. Let's help each other out. And then before we get started with today's topic, I just wanted to tell you guys what I did yesterday. I went to a live MilSpouse event, and it was amazing to get to hang out with so many other military spouses. The MilSpouse team and USAA, that's their contributing sponsor, the big sponsor, they just did such a fantastic job. Michelle Norman was the guest speaker, and she was amazing as she shared her story and getting to learn about her. And then last week, I forgot to share that my son went to MEPS and that he's joining the military. He's joining the Army like his dad, and he'll be leaving the beginning of November for boot camp. So that's kind of exciting for our family and a little bit nerve-wracking all at the same time. All right, so on to today's topic. Ask for what you want. What are some of the situations in our lives that we need to ask for things? We ask our children to do things. We ask our spouses to come home at a certain time. We ask, why do you have to leave? Maybe that's kind of more of a hypothetical question, but it still gets asked, right? We ask friends to watch our children. We ask for a raise at work. We ask for help or parenting tips, help with our teens or our little children or just our children in general. Like, hey, I don't know about this. What do you know? We ask our children and husbands to help clean up. We ask for volunteers for the SFRG or for the church or the community. We might need to ask for help when our spouse is deployed or gone for training. So as you can see, there are a lot of times in our lives when we may need to ask for help. But why? Sometimes even when we need help, we don't want to ask for it. And why is that? I've heard it's because we don't want to look weak. We don't want to put someone else out. We are afraid of being told no. We don't believe that we deserve the help. We don't want to feel rejected. We make it mean something negative about us, like that we can't handle all the things going on in our lives, or we've been told no in the past. So not being willing to ask for help really comes down to a fear of rejection, fear of judgment from others, fear of us judging ourselves. Okay, so with that, how do we want to ask for things? What do we want to think about asking? For me, personally, I believe that asking for things is a part of everyday life. I want the people in my life to feel comfortable asking me for things. And I want to be able to say yes as often as possible. I want to be the person who gives more than I take. Now, with that being said, we are all in different seasons of life. Sometimes we're going to ask for more than we give, and that's totally okay. I've had those seasons in my life, as I'm sure many of you have. Now, when we think about asking, most of us want to get a yes when we ask for something, right? But I also want you to know, sometimes getting that no is okay too. We either want a yes or a no. So let's start off. How do we go about getting a yes? We want to be specific. The more specific, the better. So if I'm wanting to go on somebody else's podcast, or I'm wanting to ask somebody to come on to my podcast, I want to give them as much information as possible. Hey, I want to come onto your podcast and I want to talk about this, and this is the value that I bring. Or, hey, I want you to come onto my podcast and I want to talk about this with you. So if you've listened recently, my friend AJ came on and we talked about tips from being military deployed, how to get through a deployment, or just tips to survive everyday life. And it worked out really well because we went into it with a plan. I knew what AJ wanted to do. She knew what I wanted. And it worked out great. We were able to say yes. So the more information you can provide, the better. When I ask my babysitter to watch my children, I write out their schedules of who has to be where and when, because most of the time I need a babysitter or just help with rides, because Spencer and I are both busy or something came up. And so when I can give as much information as possible, that makes it easier for that person to say yes. And then when we went to Utah, Spencer and I, we got to go away for a weekend, just us. I had food on hand that my kids liked and that the babysitter liked. I had the schedule. There was emergency contacts. I tried to think of everything so that it's easier for the person. And the same goes when I ask for a friend for help. I try to have the details worked out. So when you ask for help, be specific. This is what I need. This is when I need it by. Now, with that being said, we all love being told yes, but the next best thing to be is being told no. And why is that the next best thing? Because then we can come up with an action plan. We can ask someone else. A no allows us to move forward and to make a plan. So if somebody asks you for a favor, answer them, tell them yes or no. Or if you don't know, be honest about it. Say, let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you by this time, and then do it. Or if you ask and they say they'll get back to you and they haven't, ask again, say, hey, I'm not trying to bother you, but are you going to be able to do this? It's not a big deal. I just need to know one way or another. Because being told no is more ideal than not asking at all or not getting an answer back. So why is being told no more ideal than not asking? Well, because if we don't ask, what is the answer? It's no, because we didn't even ask. Not asking at all makes the odds of the thing we want not happening at all. When we ask, the probability of getting a yes is a lot higher, right? So let me give you an example of that. I love flowers. I love it when Spencer brings me flowers, or I'll buy them for myself. But some days I really just want Spencer to get me flowers. And so I can shoot him a text and say, hey, babe, I really want some flowers for the kitchen table. Can you stop by on your way home from work and get me some flowers? Now, do you know what's going to happen? He's a lot more likely to get me flowers for my table when I ask than when I don't. So when I'm specific with my request, the odds of getting what I want go up. When I make the request, it goes up. Another example of this was our daughter's teacher asked us if we could make t-shirts for the school play. And we were able to look at the time and the supplies that we have, and we could say yes. And if the teacher hadn't asked her, hey, can your parents help out with this? The answer would have been no. And the person that he had, the t-shirts wouldn't have been there in time for the play. And with us doing it, we can get the t-shirts done in plenty of time for the play. And when we ask, we are allowing the other person to say yes or no. We're all good at expecting the yes, but what if we could get better at expecting the no? What if we didn't make the no mean anything about us? What if someone could say no and we moved forward figuring out a new way? Learning to be okay with the no allows us to grow. And then when you're growing, you'd stop being afraid of asking, because the no means nothing about you. As military spouses, we're all going to need help sometimes. And that doesn't mean we are weak or that we can't handle it on our own. It just means that we are a human having a human experience. And sometimes we need help. Sometimes we don't even know that we need that help. So sometimes we just want to, we can see a need and we can fill it, because that's the kind of person we want to be. Michelle Norman said yesterday in her speech, her presentation, don't do something because it is expected. Do it because it's the right thing for you. And sometimes that right thing will be asking for help. Sometimes the right thing will be helping someone else. As we learn to ask and be okay with asking, we'll grow and we'll get to become the next version of ourselves. Now, I also want you to ask for things when it would be easier to do it ourselves, because that's one of the main reasons sometimes we don't ask for help, because we think it'll just be easier to do it. And an example of this might be with our children. They know they have their chores and they're not getting them done, and they're kind of grumpy, and You don't want the fight, so you don't ask them, so you do the chores. And sometimes that's okay. But sometimes you want to ask and be willing to feel those negative emotions that come with it. Because as I've taught before, those feelings come from thoughts that we're having. And maybe we want to ask our children to do it and be okay with the feeling of annoyance or frustration or the fit, because that's okay. They can do that. And having our children help out might be more important than doing it ourselves, because they're learning to contribute to the family. They're learning to do the dishes or to fold their clothes or whatever it is. And we are willing to deal with whatever negative thoughts we have that cause us to feel a negative feeling, because really it has nothing to do with our kids doing it or not. So be willing to ask for what you want. Be willing to get a no and not make it mean anything about you. Thank you so much for being here today, my amazing military wives. I'm so proud of you and all the hard things that you do, because you're rocking this military wife life. You're doing a great job. And if you're struggling or having a hard day, it's okay. Wherever you are in your journey, if you're just starting out, your husband's at basic and AIT or just finished and you're getting ready for your first move, I see you. I've been there. We were married. We had 2 kids and I was pregnant with our third when Spencer joined. If you're in the middle of your journey and you're moving and you're in the midst of little kids, I see you. I've been there. If you're at the end and you're starting to wrap things up and get ready for retiring, I'm right there with you. I see you. I hear you. I'm here for you. Wherever you are at in your military journey, I'm here. I can help. If you're interested in learning how working with a life coach can help you, sign up for a free 60-minute consult at mariastrangecoaching.com/work with me. And let's get started on loving your perfectly imperfect military and everyday life. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you. And I'll see you next week. Bye.